The theme of today's lecture is influence of environment on human health. Plan of lecture: Environment and human health, impact of atmospheric pollution on the health of a population, impact of soil pollution on health of a population, impact of a social, domestic and industrial environment on human health, and impact of Russian aggression on the environment. In this slide you can see meaning of wellness, which include occupational, spiritual, social, financial, emotional, environmental, intellectual and physical meaning. What is environment? The environment, according to the definition of Vernadsky, is the biosphere. The biosphere is the biogenetic shell of the earth, the ecosphere, the composition, energy, and organization of which are determined by the interaction of its biotic and abiotic components. The biosphere includes about 3 million species of organisms, the zones of the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere. Thus, the environment is the totality of all material bodies, forces, and phenomena of nature, its impact on man and his economy. The environment, including the air, water, and all living things, has the power to alter the way that humans, animals, and plants exist. These elements are referred to as environmental factors. Those elements may originate from the natural world or from humans, such as pollution. To have a better understanding of them, we may divide them into many groups. Types of environment. The two primary components of the environment are usually classified as follows: natural environment and abiotic environment. To natural environment belong which consists of environmental components including soil, water, air, and vegetation. Life itself derives from the natural environment, which also support biodiversity, thought ecological process. And abiotic environment. This describes environments that are created by humans, often known as anthropogenic environments, and include structures, cities, infrastructure, and industrial effort. Human activity shapes the built environment, which in turn may greatly influence the environment. Physical factors. To physical factors belongs climate, topography, and geology. Climate means temperature, humidity, wind. Topography meaning mountains, valleys, and plains. Geology, the minerals available in soil and its composition are influenced by structure and composition of the Earth's crust. Chemical factors. Water quality, it includes pH, but pollutants. Soil composition, it includes nutrients, organic compounds, and pollutants. Biological factors, flora and fauna, and biodiversity. To flora and fauna belongs the diversity, quantity, and interactions of the local plant and animal species, all contribute to the overall balance of the ecosystem. And biodiversity, it means it consists of different species in an ecosystem. Anthropological factors belong man-made and pollution. Man-made includes urbanization, industries, and agriculture practices. To pollution belong air, soil, water, noise, and radioactive pollution. If we're talking about social factors, it means human behavior and population. Human behavior, the way people interact with their surroundings, is influenced by cultural customs, lifestyle decisions, and social standards. And population, it means the number of humans in a specific region, impacting resource utilization and environment effect. Types of actions of environmental factors on the human body is isolated, combined, complex, and incorporated. Isolated is an action in which one substance gets into the human body. Combined is an action in which several substances get into the human body from a single medium. Complex is an action in which substances gets into a human body from different components of biosphere. And incorporated is an action in which the human body is affected by two or more factors of different nature. It means chemical and noise simultaneously. In this slide, you may see environment and human health affecting environment on human health. It means rational thinking, automatic reaction from environment, mental and conclusion stimuli, which can lead to human behavior with pro-environmental and non-environmental, which can lead affecting of environment like functioning and disrupted, and it can cause destruction in human health like maintenance, improve and poor. 5 environmental factors that affect health. Environmental factors comprise a wide range of elements and conditions found in the surrounding environment that can impact human activity, ecosystems, and living organisms. If we're talking about air pollution, the air we breathe is one significant environmental factor which has an impact on human health. It's critical for our lungs in particular. Understanding the health risks associated with breathing in polluted air, researching programs that purify the air, and knowing how air pollution affects of our lungs are all necessary to maintain everyone's health. If you're talking about effect of air pollution on human beings, first of all it will be inflammation. Numerous air pollutants can irritate and inflame the respiratory system, including nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and particulate matter. Decrease respiratory function. A gradual definition in lung function has been associated with extended exposure to certain pollutants, particularly fine particulate matter. Aggravation of lung diseases. It means air pollution can have a more negative impact on people who already have respiratory diseases such as asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases and heart issues. In addition to respiratory problems, air pollution has been linked to cardiovascular problems such as heart attacks and strokes. Diseases caused by air pollution. 5 diseases by air pollution: asthma, bronchitis, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, and different types of allergies. All organisms depend on their environments for energy and materials needed to sustain life: clean air, potable water, nutritious food, and safe places to live. Although the environment sustains human life, it can also cause diseases. Lack of basic necessities is significant causes of human mortality. Environmental hazards increase the risk of cancer, heart disease, asthma, and many other illnesses. These hazards can be physical, such as pollution, toxic chemicals and food contaminants, or they can be social, such as dangerous work, poor housing conditions, urban sprawl, and poverty. What are the environmental factors that affect human health? They include exposure to hazardous substances in the air, water, soil, and food, natural and technological disasters, climate change, occupational hazards, the built environment. In this slide, you may see affecting health from pollution. It may be water pollution, air pollution, soil contamination, food contamination, and our sources of pollution, which can affect our health. The environment surrounding a person is formed by natural, climatic, and professional factors and can change under the influence of human activity. Therefore, a distinction is made between a constant and variable environment. A constant environment is an environment that, despite human influence, is restored as a result of self-regulation at a single wall with the internal environment of the organism. The environmental situation on the planet is becoming more complicated every year. This is due to the constant increase in the capacity of industrial enterprises, the opening of new plants and factories, as well as the increases in the number of vehicles, the growth in the production and use of mineral fertilizers and toxic chemicals, the emergence of new technological processes, chemicals, products, and others. All this leads to significant environmental pollution. A changed, polluted environment is an environment that has been changed as a result of its irritational use in process of human activity. It has a harmful effect on people's health, their activities, and living conditions. The social environment is a part of an environment that determines the social, material, and spiritual conditions of its formation, existence, and activity. All living organisms on Earth, including humans, are concentrated in the biosphere. If since the time of Haeckel, ecology has been considered as a doctrine of a relationship between living organisms and the environment, now speaking of medical ecology, it is necessary that they not only contribute to the normalization of these relationships, but also ensure the preservation of the health and working capacity of people or their population. This is the prerogative of medical ecology, although its aspects are partly observed in the so-called, like geographical, technical, and industrial ecology. In the environment surrounding organisms, biotic, and anthropogenic factors are distinguished, which intervene create a complex of conditions where organisms live. If I told you before about abiotic and biotic factors, so abiotic factors are determined by elements of inanimate nature, their physical state, chemical composition, and biotic factors are created by the totality of living organisms that are in the environment, and anthropogenetic factors are caused by the presence of humans and their labor activity. Who is most impacted by the environment? Environmental impacts on health are uneven across age and mostly affect the poor. Low and middle income countries bear the greatest share of environmental diseases. Children under 5 and adults between 50 and 75 years old are most affected by the environment. Yearly, more than 5 million deaths in adults and about 2 million deaths in children. It's from statistics of World Health Organization. All living things in our planet are exposed to the simultaneously harmful effects of chemical, physical, and biological factors. The source of chemical pollution is more than 2 million chemical compounds, most of which are considered harmless. The most toxic pollutants of the environment include compounds of lead and phenol. If you're talking about lead, there are significant changes in the reproductive function of animals, namely, embryos differ significantly in size. Some of them they are dead. From living embryos, fetuses with lung defects developed in addition, destructive and degenerative changes they are found in the cells of the liver and blood-forming organisms. If we're talking about phenol, enters the human and animal body mainly with drinking water. In large quantities, it is through into water bodies by industrial enterprises, where phenol its compounds position all living things. Experiments have confirmed reactive changes under the influence of phenol in the cells of hematopoietic, cartilage, and bone tissues. Today it has been clearly proven that about 70% of all cases of diseases, about 60% of cases of improper physical development of children, and more than half of deaths are associated with a polluted environment. Air pollutants such as sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, various organic substances that irritate the mucous membrane are the cause of large number of inflammatory diseases of the eyes and respiratory organs. Cases of bronchial asthma have become more frequent. Many chemicals that pollute the air and have carcinogenic and mutagenic properties have led to an increase in the number of cases of malignant diseases, primarily of respiratory organs, spontaneous abortions, perinatal fetal death, pregnancy abnormalities, infertility, and stillbirths. A major report by the World Health Organization was recently published, according to which a polluted environment is one of the main causes of high mortality in the world. According to the organization, almost a quarter of the world's population dies precisely because of poor environmental conditions. Environmental risks cause the emergence of more than 100 of the most dangerous diseases, and every year they kill 12.6 million people, which is 23% of all deaths that occur in the world. The World Health Organization notes that the two biggest environmental killers in the world are strokes and heart attacks. It will be 2.5 million per year. This is followed by heart disease like 2.3 million and cancer 1.7 million, respiratory diseases 1.4 million, and diarrhea about 1 million. The World Health Organization report identifies a number of environmental causes and their relationship to mortality, namely environmental pollution, exposure to chemicals, climate change, and ultraviolet radiation, more than 100 diseases and injuries. In the structure of a general morbidity of a population, diseases are becoming more and more noticeable, in the occurrence of which the leading role belongs to exogenous factors associated with environmental disruptors and dangerous pollution. Regional analysis of morbidity shows that its highest level of observed in the southeast region. The following diseases are especially indicative here: neoplasms, respiratory diseases, mental illnesses, congenital anomalies. In the southern region, diseases of the respiratory system, nervous system, and sensory organs and circulatory disorders are in a first place. In the structure of mortality in the northeastern region, the main place is occupied by vascular lesions of the brain, neoplasms, injuries, poisonings, and accidents. And the population of the central region most often suffers from neoplasms, diseases of the blood and blood-forming organs, endocrine diseases, and others. The western region is characterized by a high level of morbidity of the respiratory, digestive, circulatory, nervous system, and sensory organs. Thus, an analysis of the health by region reveals their complete depends on a direction of economic development and the ecological state of the environment. The main danger to human health is the exhaust gases of car engines, which contain up to 200 different compounds, many of which are toxic. The population is affected by carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, hydrocarbons, soot, sulfur dioxide, and carbon, which a 12-minute exposure to carbon monoxide at a concentration of 5.8 mg per meter changes in brain biopotential are observed in experimental volunteers. Nitrogen oxides have a destructive effect on human life. As a result of burning solid and liquid fuels on boiler rooms of thermal power plants, open heat and blast function when heating residential buildings, as well as from emissions of internal combustion engines, according to some authors, they make up to 1 to 3 to 1 to 2 of all substances that pollute the air. Hundreds of millions of tons harmful gases and dust enter the atmosphere annually, including more than 200 million tons of carbon monoxide, more than 150 million tons of sulfur dioxide, and approximately 40 million tons of hydrocarbons and other substances. Air pollution with these gases creates a greenhouse effect. That is, a large amount of heat accumulates in the atmosphere, which has caused climate warming around the world. In the 20th century alone, the average temperature on the planet has increased by 0.5 degrees. According to scientists' forecast, the rate of warming will increase, which will cause ice to melt at the poles and water levels to rise in the seas and oceans. An example is the formation in the atmosphere due to the reaction of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. with a pair of acid rains. In places there we fall plants, animals, fish, and others. Today, about 83% of the forests of Western Europe are affected by these rains. In order to protect the sanitary protection of atmospheric air, maximum permissible concentration of harmful chemicals are developed and scientifically sustained. Atmospheric air monitoring is an integral part of the state environmental monitoring system of Ukraine. The objects of monitoring are atmospheric air, including precipitation, emissions of harmful substances into the atmospheric air. During monitoring, the presence of such common harmful substances, indicators and ingredients of precipitation in the atmospheric air, such as dust, sulfur dioxide, benzopyrene, radioactive substances, and others, must be determined. When a person is in an environment with a concentration of sulfur dioxide about 0.01%, irritation of the mucous membrane of the throat is observed, and in the presence of 0.04% sulfur dioxide, general poisoning of the body occurs after 3 minutes. Air pollution by exhaust gases from vehicles is significant cause of malignant tumors in humans, which is also confirmed. Numerous medical studies have established a correlation between soil contamination with heavy metals and morbidity in the population. Cases of lead poisoning among children and adults have been registered in settlements whose soil is contaminated with emissions from lead smelters and exhaust gases from motor vehicles. The high content of lead in the soil causes its accumulation in environments in contact with the soil, atmospheric air up to 25 mg per meter, in food products up to 2.5 mg per kilogram, in water up to 2.6, in concentrations that significantly exceed the maximum permissible limit. The amount of wastewater discharged into the seas and oceans is constantly growing and has already reached 500 billion tons, and it should be remembered that the largest part of it falls on the chemical and nuclear industries. About 80 million tons of oil products are poured into the world's oceans every year. Some areas of the Atlantic Ocean have already been converted into radioactive waste disposal sites. Water pollution with heavy metals, in particular cadmium and mercury, compounds is associated with the development of severe intoxications among the population. Studies show that heavy metal toxicity may be one of the main causes of children's behavioral disorders, including ADHD, attention deficit disorders, autism spectrum disorders, and behavior. Water pollution with heavy metals, in particular cadmium and mercury compounds, is associated with the development of severe intoxications among the population arose as a result of the consumption by the population of the Minamata. Thus, in 1956, an epidemic called Minamata disease was described by caused in Japan of fish and crab skins, the main food products of the local population, contaminated as it turned out with methyl mercury, which was discharged into the sea in high concentration by a chemical plant. The chemicalization of agriculture contributes significantly to environmental pollution. Every year, 170,000 tons of pesticides and 150,000 tons of mineral fertilizers are applied to the soil of Ukraine, with 1,800 tons of lead and 400 tons of cadmium, more than 2,000 tons of zinc and 2,000 tons of copper enter the soil. The hygienical value of water is the use of water to maintain body cleanliness, cooking and washing dishes, washing clothes, cleaning housing and public space, removing sewage through the sewer system, watering streets and green spaces. Water helps to improve the living conditions of the population. Irrigation, the creation of lakes, ponds, reservoirs, fontains improve the microclimate of the area. This is especially important in the southern regions, where the average annual temperature is high and where air humidity is low. Viruses can also cause human diseases due to water pollution. Currently, about 100 types of viruses are known to be present in human faeces. The danger of water contamination by viruses is that they can persist in water for a long time, up to 200 days. In addition, many of them are much more resistant to the action of disinfectants than bacteria. It has been proven that very small doses of viruses can cause acute intestinal infections in humans. Waterborne epidemics of viral hepatitis are widespread. For example, in Delhi there was a hepatitis A disease. The epidemic lasted almost 2 months. It began in early December 1955 and ended in late January 1956. During this period, more than 99,000 people fell ill, of whom more than 29,000 people with the ecteric form of the disease and 70,000 with a non-ecteric form. The outbreak of infection occurred as a result of sewage entering the water supply network. Anthropozoonotic diseases, which means diseases that affect animals and humans, can also be transmitted through water. Such diseases include leptospirosis, tularemia, brucellosis, and Q fever. Leptospirosis enter water bodies with the urine or rodents, pigs, and cattle. Diseases most often occur as a result of drinking water from open water bodies, rivers, lakes, ponds, ditches, irrigation canals, as well as during bathing or washing clothes. Leptospirosis can also enter the human body through the mucous membranes and micro damages to the skin. In this slide you may see excess fluoride in water leads to dental fluorosis. When there is not enough iodine in water and food, the normal development and function of the thyroid glands is disrupted, and endemic goiter occurs. To prevent these diseases in endemic regions, people should consume salt with potassium iodide, added iodide south. Especially our region is endemic region. The impact of the social, domestic and industrial environment on human health. Various types of garbage causes significant damage to the environment in Ukraine. Almost 20 billion tons of it have been accumulated, covering an area of more than 130,000 hectares. This means that its composition products pollute the air, get into the soil and water, and make them unstable for use. One of the geochemical endemics is toxic cyanosis, methemmonemia. It develops when drinking water with an increased concentration of nitric acid, salts, nitrates. Most often, toxic cyanosis affects infants whose milk formulas are prepared with water in which the nitrate content exceeds more than 45 mg per liter. Nitrates in the digestive tract of children are reduced to nitrates by microflora, the latter absorbed into the blood and combined with hemoglobin, form methemoglobin, which is unable to carry oxygen. Thus, the oxygen content in the blood decreases and oxygen starvation occurs. All this is manifested by cyanosis of the mucous membranes of the eyes, lips, and skin. As a study by a number of scientists have shown, noise has a general biological effect which can lead to changes in many organs and systems of a person. Prolonged exposure to noise causes functional disorders, cardiovascular system, and affects the course of development of hypertension. Changes at the cellular level can lead to a decrease in the body's overall resistance. Daily 2 8-hour exposure to noise with a level about 60-90 decibels for a month causes a clear suppression of antibody production in immunized rabbits. According to some reports, even exposure to noise with an intensity from 52 to 62 decibels for 3-4 days causes immunological changes. Scientific studies also indicate the negative impact of infrasounds on a living organism. The basis of the impact of infrasound acoustic vibrations are vascular changes in the peripheral part of the organ of the hearing, which lead to hyperemia of the eardrum and the mucous membrane of the ear, which causes a persistent disruption of the sound conducting apparatus. Certain changes occur in the brain cells and cellular structure of the myocardium. Environmental pollution with radioactive substances deserves special attention. Man is constantly exposed to the natural radioactive background caused by cosmic rays and radiation of natural radioactive substances contained in rocks, soil, water, air, and tissues of plant and animal organisms. The radioactivity of rocks and soil is mainly due to the content of uranium, thorium, and their DC products, potassium, natural volts by uranium, thorium, radium, and radon. DC products of radium, atmospheric air by the presence of a radioactive isotope carbon-14, phosphorus 32, radon, and toron. Radioactivity of food products is more due to the content of potassium 40 and less radium and other radionuclides. The activity of products of plant origin is one average an order of magnitude higher than that of animal origin. Cosmic factors are what happens in outer space. It means solar radiation, moonlight, and cosmic rays. Solar activity is the cause of the long-term biorhythms. These turbulences caused by it in Earth's magnetosphere and ionosphere disrupt the activity of cardiovascular and nervous system. Another factor is ultraviolet radiation, which is useful in small doses but dangerous in large doses. Atmospheric air is one of the most important elements of this environment. If a person can live for several days without water and much longer without food, then without air, irreversible changes in the brain begin to occur after 5 minutes. Mainly air is needed by a person as a source of oxygen, which is necessary component of oxidative process and supports the vital activity of the body. But a person is also significantly influenced by such air factors as the temperature, humidity, movement, atmospheric pressure, as well as atmospheric electricity, atmospheric ionization, and air radioactivity. Medical characteristics of atmospheric air. If we're talking about fluctuation in air temperature occur not only during day, month, and with alternation of seasons, but also very significantly depending on the latitude of the area. The minimum temperature is observed above the poles of the Earth and the latitudes adjacent to them, and the maximum in the equatorial regions. If you're talking about daily fluctuations in air temperature in the direction from the equator to the poles decreases, and annual ones on the contrary increase. Doctors pay great attention to air temperature due to its extremely noticeable effect on human heat exchange. This effect on the human body is especially unfavorable in conditions of significant temperature deviation, for example, when working in hot workshop in a large refrigeration chambers. Humidity, like air temperature, also affects the body's heat exchange. Relative air humidity is measured as a percentage of absolute humidity to the maximum at a given temperature using an August station psychrometer or Assmann aspiration psychrometer. A hygrometer can also be used to measure air humidity. The optimal relative humidity for the human body is within 30–55%. Below 30%, the air is very dry. From 36 to 70% moderately dry, from 71 to 85 moderately humid, and from 86 to 100 very humid. At a humidity less than 30%, the mucous membrane of the upper respiratory tract dries out. The protective function of a ciliated epithelium decreases. Cracks may appear with a subsequent development of an inflammatory process due to their infections, especially in children. The speed of air movement has different effect on the neurophysical state of a person. For example, a speed from 1 to 2 meters per second on a hot summer day pleasantly invigorates a dressed person, while moving from 5 to 7 meters per second is already irritating. A significant increase in the speed of air movement, which can reach 20 meters per second or more, will interfere with breathing and performing work. The effect of solar radiation. The action of solar radiation constantly increases with the Earth's biosphere. It is one of the types of electromagnetic radiation that arises as a result of thermonuclear reaction that continuously occur inside the Sun. Electromagnetic radiation consists of extremely small particles, quanta, and the shorter the wavelength of electromagnetic radiation, according to Planck's law, the greater the energy of its photon. Light affects the organs or vision, the pigments of the retina, of which are also photosensitivities, converted into electrical impulses in the retina. It supplies the brain with up 80% of information about the environment, excites the cerebral cortex, has its signaling or conditioned reflex value. Under its influence, metabolism increases, emotional mood and performance increase, and general well-being improves. Visible light creates maximum illumination, which can reach tens or thousands of lux, while moonlight provides only 0.2 lux. Insufficient ultraviolet radiation leads to a decrease in the body's contents of vitamin D calciferol, which is synthesized under the influence of this radiation in human skin from 7,8-dehydrocholesterol, which is carried to the skin with the bloodstream by serum lipids. Calciferol activates phosphorus calcium metabolism, normalize bone mineralization process, and take an active part in our processing, regulation of nervous system, excitability, absorption of potassiums and minerals from foods. The influence of climatic conditions on the hygienic living conditions of people. One of the most important components of the environment that affect human life is climate. Climate is a long-term weather regime inherent in a certain geographical area which is regularly repeated. Weather is a set of physical properties of a surface layer of the atmosphere for a relatively short period of time, hours, days, weeks. It is formed by the complex of natural factors: solar radiation, temperature, humidity, direction and speed of air movement, atmospheric pressure, geophysical and electric fields of the atmosphere, cloudiness, the presence of precipitation, and anthropogenic atmospheric pollution, deforestation, hydrometeorology measures, and others. From this it is clear that climate is a stable phenomenon and weather is a variable process. In the slide you may see the farm-to-table, the potential interaction of rising carbon dioxide and climate change on a food quality and safety. Climate directly affects the nature of human economic activity, their lifestyle, living conditions, health structure and level of morbidity. Climatic conditions are taken into account in hygienic recommendation when conducting an examination of construction projects for both public, residential buildings, medical and preventive institutions, and industrial construction like factories, thermal power plants. They are also taken into account when developing recreational nutrition, clothing, footwear, work and rest regimes in measures to prevent the occurrence or exacerbation of diseases. In this slide you may see impact of climate change on human body. Changes in weather can be associated with disruption in the biological rhythms of a people's lives. It affects seasonal diseases, for example, exacerbation of gastric and duodenal ulcers, cardiovascular, mental diseases, contributes to disorders of the endocrine and other systems. In most people, rhythmic changes in the intensity and nature of climate and weather associated with a change of season or day and night do not cause negative manifestation. The American Public Health Association recently declared that climate change represents the nation's greatest public health challenge. But how exactly does a changing climate affect health? According to the World Health Organization, health threats from the climate change include increased health-related illnesses, injury, and illness from intensifying weather-related disasters and fires, and extended range of vector-borne diseases such as Zika and West Nile virus. As the climate and the oceans warm, the frequency and the activities of storms is taking a mounting toll on human life. More than 2,000 people lost their lives as a result of Katrina, Harvey, and Irma. The immediate tragedy of these deaths sometimes overshadows the ensuing health threats from these storms, which can persist and affect many more lives. Meteotropic reactions can be quite diverse in their manifestation, but they are united by the simulations occurs in many patients which the weather changes. It has been established that the human body reacts as a rule to change in the entire complex of weather conditions, only sometimes to change in one of these factors. In addition to the direct impact on human health, weather changes in combination with other factors sometimes act indirectly. For example, during an anticyclone, cold air masses can be pressed to the Earth's surface along with a large number of emissions from industrial enterprises that have entered the air. Geophysical factors are determined by the process occurring on Earth's magnetic field, gravity, seismic, volcanic activity. The human body does not feel the Earth's magnetic field, but reacts to its effects primarily with functional changes in the nervous, circulatory systems, and brain activity. The basis, environmental and medical characteristics of nutrition. The basis of all vital processes of the human body is the constant exchange of the substances between the body and the environment. From the environment, a person consumes oxygen, water, and food products. The role of food is to replenish energy and tissue elements necessary for the growth, development, and functioning of the body, ensuring metabolic process, normal health, and working capacity. It is thanks to nutrition that the continuity of the course of two opposite and interrelated processes of assimilation and dissimilation is ensured. Food products are of plant and animal origin. The most common products of plant origin, cereals and their processed products, vegetables, fruits, berries, mushrooms. Products of animal origin include meat, fish, eggs, milk, and dairy products. The human diet consists of food products that contain proteins, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, mineral salts, and sufficient amount of water. The combination of food products in the diet should be in such an amount that it provides all the physiological needs of the body. Improper nutrition affects the development of the body, reduces its defenses, and can be the causes of many diseases. Smolar believes that more than half of premature deaths under 65 years of age of men and women in Ukraine are caused by diseases in the occurrence of which nutrition plays an important role. Disordered nutrition. Starvation, almost complete absence of food, and therefore rapid development of hypertrophy, exhausting. Malnutrition or hypertrophy, a pathological condition due to insufficient food intake over a long period of time. Specific types of deficiency, pathological conditions that arise due to the relative or absolute absences of particular nutrient in the diet. Imbalance, an incorrect ratio of necessary food components which leads to the development of a pathological condition, regardless of there is an absolute deficiency of a particular food components. Overeating or hypertrophy, a pathological condition caused by excessive food consumption over a long period of time. Classification of diseases that can be transmitted through the food is another important group of diseases. As is known, a number of diseases can be transmitted through the food. First one, zoonosis, tuberculosis, brucellosis, foot and mouth diseases, anthrax, tularemia, ornithosis, leptospirosis, Q fever, endemic encephalitis, salmonellosis. Second one, anthraponosis, amoeboic dysentery, bacterial, typhoid fever, viral hepatitis, cholera, enterovirus diseases, giardiasis. Third one group, helminthiasis, teniasis, teniarrhea, diphyllobotriosis, opisthorhynchosis, trichinosis, ascaritas, trichocephalosis, enterobiosis. Food poisoning is microbial, non-microbial, and unknown etiology. Food poisoning and its prevention. Food poisoning is an acute, less often chronic, non-communicable disease that occurs as a result of eating food that is heavily contaminated with certain types of microorganisms and their toxins, as well as toxic substances of microbial or non-microbial nature. They are always associated with eating. The gastrointestinal tract is affected. The clinical picture is characterized by a sudden onset, a short incubation period, mass coverage of the population, and a rapid cessation when the food product that became a transmission factor is removed. Food poisoning is divided into three groups: microbial, non-microbial, and of unknown etiology. Poisonous plants. You may see in the slide some of them. Approximately 90% of deaths from plant poisoning occur among young children aged from 1 to 6 years. In Ukraine, there are approximately 100 known species of wild and cultivated plants that can cause poisoning. The most common are black otter, hemlock, datura, spotted hemlock, white hellebore, field poppy, belladonna, wolf's bast, aconite, and Sosnovsky Hukvit. Heavy metals and other groups of food contamination. There are elements in nature that are necessary for life, which are useful in small doses, toxic in large doses, and some are dangerous to the body only in large doses. These are heavy metals like lead, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, copper, and zinc. Heavy metals enter the body from equipment, inventory, containers, packing, drinking water contaminated with heavy metals, and food products that have been contaminated during cultivation and production. Food additives, in addition to the above substances added to food products during the process of growing, storing, cooking, and others. There are a number of substances added to food products for technological purpose. They can be divided into four groups. First group is food additives that improve the consistency and organoleptic qualities of food products for taste and appearance. Second group, it will be which increase the stability of products and increase their shelf life, preservatives. Third one group, additives that improve the technology of food products. And fourth one are the food additives. According to the World Health Organization, environmental risk causes over 100 of the most dangerous diseases, and they kill about 12 million people every year. Thank you for your attention. Our lecture is over. Goodbye.